Welcome to the Bradshaw Chronicles, the Friday Edition. I am your host, Bryan Lee Whatley. Today's special guest is Steve Olander. Steve is an amazing film director and screenwriter. He has a couple of great projects going on, such as The Farm and Musselin, that we'll discuss. Today's special musical guest is Justin Estep. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
How are you doing, Steve?
Pretty good, Brian.
So can you tell me a little bit about how you got into filmmaking and how long you've been doing it and what interests you?
Yeah, I've actually only been doing it for the past 4.5 years when I happened to look around and notice the technology level that video cameras has gotten to. More than anything else, for me, it was the realization of being able to do the film myself here in, near Cleveland, Ohio, without having to go to Hollywood. Back when I was 13, I got the same story a lot of people my age has. That was 1977. Star Wars was out, and I just had to know how everything was done in that movie. And there was a real good magazine at the time that was new called Starlog, and I got all the issues of that, which was really nice because they had interviews with the people that made the film. They had articles on how the special effects were done, how the props were made, and it was just a candy store. And from that, and seeing some documentaries on it and reading other books about how Star Wars was made, I said, okay, this is what I want to do. But I was 13 years old, and I had no inkling to go to college. I had no inkling to move from Ohio and go to California, which at the time, if you were going to be a filmmaker, those were the two things you had to do. So wasn't too concerned about actually pursuing the career because it just didn't seem like something I was going to be able to commit myself to. But from the age of 13, I just continued reading Starlog. I continued watching documentaries, watching films, studying how they're made, camera movement, direction, little nuances of the actors, and then even getting into finding out how lighting is done, different techniques of lighting for different situations, and every facet there is of filmmaking. That's what I've been researching as a nerd for the past 30 years. And finally, when I looked around and I saw, hey, these cameras are high definition, and the software that you can get for your computer to edit makes it all possible. So it was time to start. And that's how I got started in this now.
I actually love doing little indie films and putting together video scenes, and that's how the show right here. That's why I'm so glad to talk to you about what you do in terms of making video and developing films, because from my past as well, I've also been an actor, and I've been in a couple of different movies as extras, paid extras, doing fight scenes and whatnot. And it's just the production side of it. You can be in front of the camera and you can be behind the camera, and both sides are equally great to me. I'm actually finding that I love being behind the camera a little bit more, just because you mentioned the cameras and software and all the other stuff that's come up in the last 4.5 years. And it's true, the advancement of equipment has really accelerated to allow people to start making their own indie films and getting into it. What's some of the hardware and software that you use, if you don't mind, if that's not a trade secret and you don't mind giving that out? Some people get really picky about that.
Yeah, 4.5 years ago when I started out, I said, well, the first thing I'm going to have to do is just shoot something and play around with it in order to learn how to use the camera, learn how to do the editing, and use the editing programs and get familiar with them and understand how they work. So I started out as cheap as I could. I actually got a nice camera for 1998. If it was 1998, it was a top-of-the-line camera, but this was only 4.5 years ago. So instead of being $2,500 because of the age of the camera, it was actually $250.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. In its day, before high-definition television, it was a television broadcast quality camera and everything. eBay is a wonderful thing. And so anyways, it was a super VHS video camera, which what's super about it is the lines of resolution are twice regular VHS. So this is what I got to play around with, to learn on. And I actually shot 2 commercials for commercial contests for Doritos for the Crash the Super Bowl contest. And that taught me what it took to do a shoot, organization, the kind of problems that you're going to run into with logistics of getting everybody's schedules to meet together so you can all get together on the same day, getting permission from the police to be able to shoot in a road construction area, and then, of course, camera angles and working, getting multiple camera angles with just one camera. And then I just used Windows Movie Maker. Again, it came with the Windows, so it's free. So that's what I learned on. What I have now is a Canon Vixia HV30 camera, which is high definition. It has a Cine mode, which is a setting for, I guess the best way you could describe it is to flatten the colors. It doesn't make them too vibrant and doesn't make them too dull. It kind of makes a middle of the road area, so that for whatever kind of a look that you want to do the editing for, you can either enhance the colors, you can dull them down. It's a real nice starting point. It's very common for people with these cameras to use that Cine mode in order to attempt to replicate the film look. It also shoots in what's called 24p. 24 frames a second is what regular film shoots at. And video cameras shoot at 30 frames a second, which is actually 29.937 frames a second. It's just not exactly 30. But anyways, what that means is, with the difference in frame rates, is video footage does not have the same motion blur when people move as film does. Video captures images a little more crisp. So if you want your movie to look like a movie, it's not going to look like a movie if it's shot on video. My camera and a number of other cameras have that 24 frames per second setting, so that you can replicate the amount of motion blur like film, which helps. It's kind of a pride thing. You would like to shoot on film, but video is so much easier. Especially when you don't have the money for a film camera and film development, and film is a completely different science. So, along with that camera, I also now have Sony Vegas Movie Maker 10 HD Platinum Studio. I think that's a long enough name, but as a matter of fact, I got the box right here. I'll get it right. Because a lot of people want to know exactly what you use. It's Vegas Movie Studio HD Platinum Production Suite. And this program is awesome. Sure, it's not Vegas Pro, which is a much more expensive program, and I've actually known films that have been released that have been edited in Vegas Pro. But this one here, Movie Studio, is a really excellent program for somebody at this level, and somebody looking to do something much better than your typical home movie, or somebody that's just trying to make a film. If you want something that really looks professional, I'm really happy with this program.
Now, you mentioned actually a couple of things that come to mind in terms of making these types of films and indie films, and the hurdles that people go through in order to do it. So the cameras that you use, the fact that you actually got, that expensive of a camera at a very low price on eBay is outstanding. I'm constantly looking on eBay for different bits and pieces. I use a smaller camera, just a standard Sony cam right now, but I'm looking to actually get something a little bit more production quality like what you have. If I can find one at that price, that'd be amazing. The software that I use is a little different. Windows Movie Maker is there, but I also use NHS and one other piece. But I've heard of people using Sony Vega, and most people like it. So the fact that you use that as well, I mean, that's a huge boost for me to go out and take a look at it, because it's really not that expensive in terms of video editing from what I remember, but in terms of what I've seen other companies use before. And
exactly. The first editing program that I bought before, or rather right after using Windows Movie Maker, I use Windows Movie Maker to be able to understand what an editing program is.
Yes,
it's simple
exactly.
enough and intuitive enough to get you up and running and being able to edit videos, but it's pretty limited. Not that you can't make something pretty cool, but if you want to make like a feature film type thing, it's a different story.
Right.
So the first program I bought was Pinnacle Studio 10, and I bought that about 4 years ago, and I thought that was really something. It was $125, and I used that program for about 4 years, and just because with the speed that software becomes obsolete and everything, and then you got to buy the next thing and then the next thing. I'm old school. I'm not like that. I bought it. I have it. I'm going to use it. And then when I was ready to move up from Pinnacle Studio, I was looking at all the various programs, and Sony Vegas, I was able to get this one. I think it's normally $125 to $150 depending upon where you buy it. And I was thinking, okay, well, that's the same level of program as what I already have because of the price. Well, I was very wrong. It's just that the technology has become that much cheaper. So for the $125 price, the same price as I paid for the Pinnacle, I got a program that is 10 times more powerful and like 5 times more complex. I just never would have thought that you can get this kind of an editing program for that kind of money. And again, if you go to eBay or Craigslist, sometimes I got lucky. There was a guy who on eBay, he had purchased 10 of them thinking he was going to be able to get the rebate on each of them. And then he would be able to sell them at a little bit of a profit on eBay. But then he found out he can only get the rebate on one of them. So I made out by being able to get it at a pretty good price, but he got stuck holding the bag.
That's awesome.
Sometimes it depends on what side of the sale you're on.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because I mean there and if you go and you just kind of look for video editing software, there's at least 10 different major types for people.
Oh yes.
Whether you're using Mac or whether you're using PC stuff. And I've heard several people use Sony Vega, and I'm really glad to hear that you use that as well, because whenever you do start getting into something where you would want it to make it look professional, I completely agree with you. Movie Maker is great if you're just starting out. And so for everybody out there just starting out, I would suggest for them to do exactly like you say. Start off with Movie Maker. You can't make high-end production quality stuff, but you can make some cool things with it. But then once you get comfortable with it and you know that that's what you want to do and you have money to start spending into, better software packages and more cameras and, just kind of build. You don't have to go into debt at the very first film that you create,
exactly.
With your kids or whatever. But, just start off small and then look into higher end production software. Myself, my degree is actually in computer science, and so I write software. So you said that it actually, obsoletes in 6 months and, over a year, then that's true. Unfortunately, that's just the way software works. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to upgrade your software in order for you to continue on. If you've got something that works really great for you, like such as use Movie Maker that lasts for years or something else, you don't always have to upgrade. And that's where a lot of people ask me in terms of, do I need to upgrade on this next one? Do I need to do that? And I said, well, what does the upgrade bring to you in your production suite that you need? Does it have anything that you're actually going to use? And a lot of people, they just automatically upgrade, but they never use it. It's like buying a Ferrari or a NASCAR car and trying to drive it on the roadway at 55 miles an hour. Well, it's a 200 mile an hour car, and if you're never going to drive it at 200 miles an hour, then why buy the car?
Yep.
And so I think a lot of people get lost in that. That's amazing. I'm glad to hear for what you use. Now, you did mention licenses and multiple cameras, and that's one thing. It's always concerned me whenever I go downtown and I just want to shoot like a walk-in interview, or if I'm just shooting something small. Can you talk a little bit about licenses and how people need to pay attention to those in terms of filming?
Pretty much what I work with is releases, and also basically permission from your local law enforcement. The one commercial that I shot involved utilizing a couple of lanes on a road that had just been built, and they were still, roped off. Sure, the concrete was cured and everything, but they just didn't want those lanes utilized yet. Well, in my commercial, I needed a couple of cars sitting in the street at a traffic light. So by being able to put the car on those 2 lanes that were not being used yet, I had traffic in the background going back and forth, so it looked like they were in the road. But in order to do that, I went to the my local police station first, and I explained to them, listen, I want to shoot a little video. I want to use those 2 new lanes that are being used there next to the were built there next to the drugstore, and we're just going to have a couple cars sitting there. They're not going to be doing anything. I'm going to be going back and forth with the camera, and we'll probably be there about 45 minutes. And a police officer at the police station asked me, and you're telling me this why? I thought, I said, well, in case somebody calls in and says, there's some people on the other side of the tape and the barrels, on that new lane, or if one of your officers goes by and they want to know what the heck's going on. They said, yeah, no problem. So a lot of times, all it takes is just asking, whether it's the police department or, like on last week's shoot, we needed a parking lot, a real good size parking lot to represent an airport parking lot. And I did not want to go to an airport because of all the security and concerns that they have, and which is understandable in this day. So I went to a Lowe's, and I called up the manager and I said, listen, my friends and I are going to be shooting a video, and we have a scene where we have a really big parking lot, and we're going to have 2 actors walk into a car and then drive away. Could we use your parking lot? He said, yeah, sure. Give me a call an hour, before you start, just so I know you're out there. So getting permission is really pretty easy. Other instances, like for your actors, if you're going to be displaying what you're making, you have to have a release from them. And anytime anybody is going to be displayed in what you're doing, you have to have releases. The only time that you don't need a release for a person is if they are so far in the background that they are not identifiable. That is pretty much the dividing line there on when a release is needed. If the person is not easily identifiable or obviously identifiable, that's probably the better word. If the person is not obviously identifiable, then you don't need the release for them. But if anybody else just happens to casually walk through your video and you can see their face and, they would be able to identify themselves, you have to have a release for that person.
Okay. I was thinking that you had to go to like the city council or the state or local film representative in order to make sure you get a filming license. So
it depends on how big of a project you have. We obviously are a startup organization at Ghostwalk, and even before I was associated with Ghostwalk, I was just Steve Olander wanting to make a video. So the 2 commercials that I did, the contest entries, that was for no money. There was no income. There was no prize. There was no nothing. So there's no monetary gain. It's not professional. It's a hobby.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that's good. That makes perfectly good sense now that you mention it. Because a couple of times I go down and film, and that's what I mentioned earlier. I'm always unsure about whether I actually need licenses to film some of the things that I'm filming. Mostly it's just me in it, and I try to make sure that my background, like you mentioned earlier, about whether the actors in the foregrounds or the extras are in the backgrounds, about who needs to release or anything else. And so I always try to shoot up against the wall from behind me to make sure that nobody's walking behind me.
Right.
And I think it's great that you mentioned just sometimes the best thing to do is ask if you can have permission in order to shoot there, like Lowe's or something, because the last thing you want to do is trespass and not get permission. So
exactly,
the fact that you just go in and ask, and if they're okay with it, do you normally get them to sign off on it, or you just kind of
yes,
okay,
yes.
Good.
It's nice to have them to sign a release as well.
Okay.
But like I said, it's amazing how much cooperation that I've experienced in asking. Sure, I've been told no a couple of times, and I understand why. And not everybody wants to be bothered.
Exactly.
But most of the time, like I say, with my local police and other business owners and stuff, You tell them what you're doing and everything, and they say, yeah, sure. And then say, well, I'd like you to take a look at this form, and if you're comfortable with it, then I need you to sign that as a release. Oh, sure, no problem. And they take it and they look it over, and there's a number of release forms for all kinds of things that you can download for free online. You can do a search just basically for film release, and you'll find a number of websites come up with documents that you can download, and you can even, a lot of them are in Word document files, so you can actually edit them and everything for your own personal requirements. There's a few things that are in releases that I know I wouldn't sign myself, and I like to edit those things out myself too.
So you don't necessarily need to go and hire a full-blown attorney or a representative like that in order to write up all these different release forms and everything. You can pretty much just download some really good ones and adjust it for yourself for what you need to help people save money.
Yes.
Okay.
But it
like
is
that.
nice to have some kind of a background in the legal requirements for that, whether if you get a recent book on that, or if you attend a seminar. Seminars are also given all across the country on those kind of matters, and sometimes even at film festivals they will have a session on releases and those kind of legal requirements.
Oh, okay. Well, a couple of questions that are coming in are, what's the easiest part of filmmaking and what's the most difficult part from your perspective? Two completely opposite spectrums there.
Yeah. The easiest part is having the initiative, wanting to do this, and getting out of a chair and moving and doing what it takes. This is a passion for me, and all my life let me back up a little bit. In the beginning of my life, I didn't have money, and not that I'm loaded down with money now. I'm paying the bills okay now.
Hopefully soon after your next couple of movies you will be.
Yeah. When I didn't have money, I had to do everything myself. I couldn't pay somebody else to do it. I couldn't pay to have it done. So I had to do it all myself. And that has been really good for me through all my life, because I've been able to achieve an awful lot with that mindset. But now, especially working with Ghostwalk Productions LLC, we have a crew and we have people, and there's people there to do these things, to do that thing, to move the lights or to set up the props and everything in a set. And I'm just so used to doing it. So it's hard for me to back off and let somebody else do it. And I would have to say, so far for me, that is the hardest part, is letting somebody else have the reins for something. And
yeah.
But it's very important, because as director and videographer, I have enough to do on the set with the camera and making sure that the lighting is right for the scene, figuring out where the sound guy is going to be standing so that the mic is not in the scene, or the shadow from the mic won't be in the scene, and framing the shot and following the actors. And there's enough there for me to do all day long.
Right.
So to let go of the rest of it and everything is pretty difficult, but that's just because of my past history of having to do everything myself.
That's interesting on how you label the easiest and most difficult parts of filmmaking is one is being able to get up and do it yourself. Just the motivation factor, and you consider that the easiest part. I find that a little difficult for other people that I talk to, is for them to get self-motivated to do something as large as making a movie. And I say in terms of just it being large, of just filming it and editing it, or just trying to figure out what it is that they want to do. But being able to do it, and then of course, you're your own paid employee, and so for what you produce is what you're going to get. I think, and then turn around, and then you saying, being able to release that control to others and say, okay, I'm going to give you the responsibility to run this section. You're going to be the grip boy to do this. You're going to do lights. You're going to, and trust people who do that. And so you mentioned Ghostwalks Productions and the LLC and the crew that's working with you. I think I can see where that's definitely a difficult part whenever you're coming up from just doing it yourself. And a lot of people are very, very nitpicky and controlling whenever it comes to making something because they want it done exactly on, that good, soft, warm, fuzzy feeling inside them and say, okay, this is exactly how I want. But whenever you start having a full crew like you have, and you start releasing that responsibility out to other people and other teams for them to run that section, that trust factor that comes in, I could definitely understand where that becomes a difficult part. And I think, is it the communication that you're having with your teams and the people who work for you now is what's making it a little bit easier? Do you find that as you communicate more with them and let them understand your vision and your thoughts and what you want done, does that make it?
The film that we are working on now, The Farm, is the biggest project any of us have worked on. So this is a learning experience for all of us, and we are learning how to communicate between the various, how can you put that? Between the various people. You have the person that would, take care of lighting and lighting the scene. You have a person that is going to be handling the mic boom, dealing with the recorder that the audio is being recorded onto, and then also they have to figure out where they can move the mic, where they can't move the mic, how they need to position it for, okay, do we just want to get the footsteps now as they walk out of the room after they've said their part, and if I do that, when I move the mic down there, is that going to be in the camera? So the lighting person has his nomenclature, his concerns and issues. The audio guy has his, and then we have somebody else that would make sure that there's no reflections off of pictures on the wall, maybe that have glass over them, and you want to make sure you don't have the cameraman in there or the audio guy reflected in there. And everybody has their own concerns and issues for the part that they handle. And as such, they also have their own vocabulary. And so that's two things that you have to consider when you're talking to all of these people, or when they're all talking amongst each other, is the concerns. This guy has these concerns and uses these words and everything for the problems that he has to deal with and things he's responsible for. And it's almost like having different cultures at each position. So you have to figure out how to communicate between everybody. And you can't see me motioning my finger in a circular pattern. Get everybody to communicate on the same wavelength. And what's really cool is we have such wonderful people that if somebody says something that comes out the wrong way, nobody thinks, oh, well, that person is, they're ticked off at me or they're being an idiot. We don't have that, which is absolutely amazing among a group of people, because you're almost like walking on glass, trying to be careful. But we don't have to worry about that so much, because we have that understanding among all of us that we're basically kind of feeling our way as we go. Because, like I said, it's a project on a scale that none of us have ever done before. And we're just all growing into it and having a lot of fun while we do it.
You mentioned The Farm for Ghostwalks Productions. That's the next biggest film that you're working on now. Can you give us a couple of teasers and tell us a little bit about what it's about? I've been wanting to ask you this question. I'm so interested in this movie that you're doing. I've seen some of the pictures on the website, and it looks amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. The Farm is a story written by Rocky Carledge, president of Ghostwalk Productions, and it is based on a true story. And what I found out, which actually surprised me even, is that 80% of what you will be seeing on the screen actually happened. Based on a true story means that we've got this idea from this real thing that happened. And usually the film then is a very watered down version of the real events. But this is not watered down, typical what you're used to seeing. Like I said, about 80% of what you're going to be seeing on the screen actually happened. And that's pretty unnerving. We came up with the idea to do this film. Rocky and I were at the Indie Gathering Film Festival last year in August, and we saw a category of films called microfilms, and it's like, okay, you think of microfilm, you get that little card with all the tiny pictures on it. But a microfilm is a 5 to 10 minute movie. And I thought, well, how much, can you put into 5 or 10 minutes? So we decided to go in there and see these films that we never even, knew there was a category for. And the amount of creativity was amazing. There were some very intriguing and very entertaining stories. And we had been working on trying to come up with a way to shoot a trailer for the Ghost Walk story. But it involves so many period correct costumes and locations that we just, were having difficulty raising enough money to do that trailer. But then when we saw these 5 and 10 minute movies, it's like, oh, okay, if we do something that's not like period correct and everything, where we don't have the complex costume costs and everything, and if we are down to 1 or 2 locations, we could do something like that. So we decided to do that. And Rocky sat down, started writing the screenplay for it. And 1 page of screenplay, on average, works out to a minute on film. Or a minute on screen, I should say. And so I'm expecting when he's done, we're going to have 5 to 10 pages of screenplay. Well, he sends me 20 pages and says he's halfway through. And I said, well,
oh my God.
I don't think this is going to be a microfilm anymore. I think now we're looking at a short film. Depending upon which film festival you go to, that's 25 to 30 minutes. So when he finally gets done writing the screenplay, I've got 48 pages of script. And it's like, oh boy, we're going to have a hard time to whittle this down. So I did some editing on the script, and I got it down to 43 pages. And then we decided to, okay, well, we'll shoot what we have. And then when we edit the video, we will edit it down to 25 to 30 minutes for the film festival circuit. As we plan to submit this for entries in film festivals. And then we'll produce a DVD, which will have the long version, the 40, 45 minutes, or whatever it ends up working out to do. And the DVD will also have a documentary on the location that we are shooting at, which is a haunted farm. It's known and documented to be haunted. And so we'll have the documentary on there about that as well, as we are associated with a couple of paranormal investigators, Stephen Lancaster and also Tom Watkins at Night Paranormal Investigations.
Okay.
And also on the DVD will be the outtakes, which is always my favorite part.
Oh, yeah. I have to agree. Those are the best.
Yeah. So anyways, we've been working on the film. We've been shooting for 2 weekends now, and we have a couple more weekends planned. One of them scheduled already. And the location is 2.5 hours away for me, and about 2 hours for Rocky as well. But we're doing what we can to get this thing shot and in the can. We're hoping to have it ready for Halloween.
Oh, really? That soon? No.
Yeah, that's soon.
That's fast. So congratulations
yes, it is.
on that. No pressure or anything.
Not at all.
But in terms of release time, if you look at your market segment for releasing a video like this, a movie like this, that's a perfect market time frame in order for you to release it.
Definitely.
So it's good planning there. Now, people can actually go to, I think the web address is The Farm Film. That's TheFarmFilm.com. TheFarmFilm.com. Is that where they can find information about the
Correct.
this
Without
movie?
the www.
You mentioned in here that a lot of this is an actual haunted farm, and the stuff that's been going on there has been documented. So it's based off a true story. So that right there has my attention. I love watching true to life films and stories about it. Has there been anything that's ever happened while you're filming that you've noticed before? So such as an EVP or shadows or things moving
We
or
have
not
been
working correctly?
waiting and watching and expecting. We've had a couple of people have some pretty uncomfortable feelings while being there. And the only thing that I thought was really interesting was on the last night of the first weekend that we were there, a storm had rolled in, and the wind had picked up quite a bit. And we were attempting to shoot the last scene for the day. And I got the actress in her place and everything, and then I said, action, and on action the lights went out on cue, as if on cue.
Wow.
Which was kind of neat.
That's
and
awesome.
That kind of freaked people out. Here's another really neat part about it. The location that we are shooting at is called the Haunted Farm. It is a Halloween attraction in Pleasantville, Ohio. So not only can you watch this movie with this very intriguing story about what happens to this honeymoon couple, based on a true story, not only do you see the outtakes and some behind-the-scenes shot of the place, and by the way, if we had $2 million, we could not build a better set. And this is real. But you can also go to the place and go through their Halloween attraction, which is very elaborate and a labor of love for them as well. It's a sprawling farm. There is a number of very creepy barns and whatnot. There's hay rides and there's corn mazes. There's a little place for, there's something for the kids so that it's not so scary. And then there's the stuff for the adults who say, "Oh, I never get scared," and you will be. But there's there's barns there that are from the late 1800s. I mean, it's like something out of a movie to point a cliche there.
Well, the fact that it's in the actual farm, and then people assume that investigating teams, if they wanted to, can actually go there, reserve like maybe some days or weekends or whatever, to go there and investigate it. Is that possible? Do they do that?
Yes. Tom Watkins from Night Paranormal Investigation is going to be doing an investigation there. Of course, you have to have there's people that are living there, and you have to have their permission and everything, and that's actually part of the package with filming there.
Okay, well that's good, because I like going off to different places in order to investigate. And you said it's in Pleasant Valley, Ohio?
Pleasantville, Ohio. Just east of Columbus. Okay.
I think I have a couple of friends up there, so I'm going to have to get a plane ride or drive up there and stay at their house and then drag them out there to the farm. It sounds exciting. And then once you go there, then once you watch the film, then you can say, "Oh, look, I've been there.
Exactly. How many times have you seen a movie where, oh, that'd be a cool place to visit? Or, you look at something and, wow, that's really cool, but they built that just for the movie.
I know.
It's like, well, not only did we not build this for the movie, I mean, it's a real place, and it's an attraction you can go to throughout the month of October, and I believe even rather late September as well. They have some kind of a haunted fest.
You mentioned a couple of film festivals, just real quick. I've actually been to the Sundance Film Festival. Unfortunately, I was there for the 2002 Winter Olympics. I was in the military, and I was doing security there for the Olympics, but the Sundance Film Festival was going on while we were there, right before the Olympics. Have you ever been to the Sundance? Or
I'm envious. No, I have not. One day I'll get out there. Also, the Phoenix Film Festival is another one I want to go to, as well as the Toronto Film Festival. Those seem to be the three biggest in North America.
Yeah, I was surprised.
There is an amazing number of film festivals across the country. There's more than 1,000 film festivals, and something that's kind of interesting for those of us that live here in Ohio. Just in Northeast Ohio, there are 9 film festivals a year.
Oh wow, that is pretty big. So you have this movie, The Farm, that's going on. What are some of the other projects that you have in the works?
One that I started last year for myself is called Musclin'. I'm a big fan of muscle cars. I've been into cars all my life.
Nice.
When I was 18, I bought a 1968 Dodge Charger. For the people that are not familiar, if you think of the General Lee, that was a 69 Dodge Charger. Same body style, just different taillights, and the 69 has a little divider thing in the middle of the grill. That's going to be for the car buffs. Anyways, I built starting 2004, a 1966 Mustang for my wife.
Oh, I love it. My mother had a 1967. I love that
cool.
car.
Yeah, she wanted a convertible, and so we were looking for a convertible for 3 months, and we realized, we are not going to be able to afford a 66 Mustang convertible. So she decided to settle on a coupe, and I happened to find a really good rust-free one, and we bought it, and we figured, okay, well, we'll fix it up some, and then we will sell it for more money, and then we'll be closer to being able to afford the convertible. Well, I'm also an artist. I do oil paintings, metal sculpture, a little bit of airbrushing. I created my own form of driftwood art. I make replica movie props, and just about anything I do is almost like an art form for me. I just have to have these creative outlets. So I basically went all out on her car. And
nice.
As a matter of fact, we were just at the All Ford Nationals in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, a couple of weeks ago, and she got third place in the 66 modified Mustang category, and that's the largest Ford show in the country. So pretty happy about that.
That's pretty.
So,
cool.
anyways, I wrote a screenplay, and at first I was just going to write the screenplay about the cars themselves, but that's not enough story. That's too shallow, and it's not going to hold the audience's interest. Sure, it'll hold the car guys for about 10 minutes. And then after that, you're going to say, okay, we've seen the cars. Now what? So you got to have a really good story.
Right.
So I came up with a story of a small-time magician traveling cross-country. He's on his way to do a show for some kids. And he stops somewhere. There were some kids on the side of the road looking at something. So he stops and looks there, too, to see what they were looking at, doesn't see anything, and he leaves. Right when he leaves, there's a hitman who is assigned to pick up something from this object that the kids were looking at. Well, the kids had found the thing that this guy was supposed to pick up, and he took it with him. But the hitman saw the magician there last, so he thinks the magician has this thing. And he has to now catch up to this magician and get his thing back. He doesn't care about the magician. He doesn't care about anybody or anything. He's very good at his job. The magician, on the other hand, has no idea what this hitman is accusing him of having, or why he's accusing him of it, and why the guy wants to kill him for it. So, as you can imagine, he needs to get away. And his getaway vehicle is my wife's 66 Mustang.
Sweet. And
the villain, the hitman, he has a 71 or 72 Monte Carlo SS 454.
Oh.
Which is also owned by a friend of mine. So, we have a Chevy versus Ford competition going on for all those people, and just a couple of really cool muscle cars, and there's going to be another car or two in there as well.
That's awesome. My father and my brother were both into, I like to call them motorheads, gearheads. They were really big into building muscle cars, just like you're talking about. My brother, we used to restore a lot of them, and he taught me. I remember one time when I was a child, sitting out, it was in the middle of winter, we were sitting out up underneath, no lie, we're up underneath an oak tree with a big block hanging from a limb. We'd pulled it out of the car and we were working on it, and it was so cold. Like the only heat that we had, and this was probably like in the early 80s, the only heat that we had was coming from the light bulbs that we had to light up the area where we were trying to work on it. And he's like telling me, he's like, okay, I need you to put these spark plugs in, and I go to put them in, and then as I'm cranking them down, he says, and don't crank them too tight. And about the time I hear crank, and I broke one of the spark plugs, and I was like, oh no, I'm so sorry. And these are platinum high performance plugs and stuff like that. But I was always like the software computer electronics guy, and so one of the things I wanted to work with my brother. I actually helped develop computer operating systems for automobiles that run the electronics and all the sensors that are inside cars now. And so one of the things I wanted to do with my brother, fortunately he passed away before I went to Iraq, but was actually combine his geniusness of building the gears and the metal part of the car along with the computer side that I wanted to do, and put the two together. We actually planned on building a Porsche We had the frame and everything else put together, or in mind that we wanted to actually put it together, but we never got a chance to do it. But I do remember, and man, it was just so much fun. And so now I try to teach my son some of the things that were passed on from my father's passed away as well, but teach my son a little bit about cars whenever I'm changing the oil, or I open up the hood and say, okay, this is the carb, and this is this is your water heater, and this is whatever else. And he has fun with it. So when you're talking about muscle cars, the 1966 Mustang, the 454, things like that. That's amazing, because so many cars of today get lost in that. And that was a true art back in the day of building muscle cars. And so many people, you can barely even fit under the hood now, in terms of getting inside to work on it, because there's so much computer stuff. There's just no room. Everything's so compact. And I remember
telling the younger generation about how with my 68 Charger, I used to sit on the fender with the hood up.
Yes.
With my feet down in the engine compartment.
Exactly.
Leaning over the engine.
Oh my God, exactly. Yeah. One person would be sitting on one side and the other person could be sitting on the other side, and you're just working on it. You'd be like sitting inside.
Now you can open up the hood and pour a glass of water over the engine, and it'll run off the hood. It'll run off the outside of the fenders.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness.
Well, let me tell you about my car. You remember the movie Mad Max?
Oh yes, love that.
The black car with the blower sticking through the hood and the spoiler on the roof and the aerodynamic nose cone. I'm building one of those.
Seriously?
I imported from Australia a 1972 XA Fairmont. The car was actually an XB Falcon, which was 1973. The only difference is the front fenders and the grille and the taillights.
Oh, man.
And my car came with all the XB parts on it, so that it looked just like an XB Falcon when I got it. And it's in my garage now. It's a bare shell. It's waiting to go get sandblasted, and I'll be painting it in epoxy primer, and then I'll be cutting out the rusted metal areas and welding in new stuff. And I already have the body kit that makes it look like the Mad Max car. And I have a blower to go on it, and I have the switch that goes on a shifter to turn it on and off. I'm up to my eyes in that too. That's another long story about how that came about. But that part of the master plan was building my wife's Mustang the way that I did. I said, I'm getting a stroker kit for the engine. That's $1,500. Yep, I'm getting this for the car. That's $500. Yep, I'm getting this. That's another $800. Just letting her know, not complaining, or anything like that. And then, now when I'm getting stuff from my car, well, I gotta get this. That's $1,000. All right, I'm gonna get this. That's another $450. Okay.
You put it in small increments. That's the key. You put it in small increments. She doesn't really realize that the car is now $50,000.
Well, the thing is, she knows what was spent on her car. So now when I go to spend the money on my car, I don't get, well, do you have to get that one? Or isn't there a cheaper one? Or does it have to be that? There's none of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And if anybody else would like to use this technique, I highly recommend it. And also the fact that my wife and I, we go to cruises together, we go to car shows together, and we just have a ball. It's just something else to share together.
That is awesome. Now, is this car, is it going to be in the Muslin movie?
No. Everybody knows what movie that car is from.
Okay.
They're, like I said, it won't be done in time for me to do that movie anyways. But I did write another screenplay, and this one I was marketing for a while, and now I am writing it as a novel. It's a story based on the Mad Max car, kinda.
Okay.
One thing that I'm really big on, and this comes from my experience in martial arts, is a lot of times reality is even more incredible than fantasy.
Yep, agreed.
That's an unusual thing for a lot of people to wrap their mind around that hasn't experienced some of the things I have. But so I was thinking, and I applied that to my car while I'm working on it. I'm thinking, well, what if the movie car, the Mad Max Interceptor, was based on a real car? And what if that real car was even more incredible? So I've come up with a backstory for that. And I don't want to go into too much detail on that, of course.
Right. Excuse me. That's pretty cool that you're you're into cars and everything else, and then turn around and writing scripts for them, and how you actually get them into the movies. So we have The Farm that's coming out, which sounds like an awesome film that's coming around the Halloween time frame. We have the Muslin movie film that you're putting together with the 1966 Mustang. Anything else? You also mentioned that you're into artwork and painting. Is there anything else in terms of special projects that we can get a teaser from you on?
Rocky Cartilage has another film idea ready and waiting. It's a film noir type style of film. For people not familiar with that, think of Humphrey Bogart, Maltese Falcon, those kind of films. The black and white look like that. Besides the storylines of those type of films and the type of characters that are in them, the actual look of the film is a big part of it. The lighting, the shadows that are cast and everything. And you don't see that anymore. And Rocky is a very big fan of those kind of films, and I am as well. And so that's the next film that he has planned. It'll be a detective type film with that old school look like that people just don't see anymore. And we're hoping everything old is new again, that we see time and time again.
How can people, if they're interested in getting in touch with you to either work with you on Ghostwalk Productions LLC in some of your films, whether they want to be in front of the camera or behind the camera, how can they get in contact with you in terms of Facebook, website?
They can go to ghostwalklive.com, and they can also go to Ghostwalk Live is a really neat website where you can see all the kind of stuff that we're working on now. The characters of the Ghostwalk story. And I'll tell you, that Ghostwalk story, another creation of Rocky Cartilage, it is every bit as complex as far as the number of characters, the characters' background, and the stories that are going on within the story. It is every bit as complex as Harry Potter. And it's just mind-boggling, the story that's come out of his head. Taking place in Victorian times, late 1890s, early 1900s. Here in Northeast Ohio, we have a city called Shaker Heights, which back in that time, that was the land of the rich. And also going up towards the islands in Lake Erie, there was a hotel there, the Hotel Victoria. Oh, I'm going to forget that now, dang it. But it's the Victory Hotel, that's what it was. That was where they vacationed at. And the Ghostwalk story takes place between those two places, the islands on Lake Erie and Shaker Heights and a number of places in between. A rich, influential family with a whole bunch of skeletons in the closet and things going on. That's also a paranormal type story as well. That's the big one that we are working towards. That's what these projects are being done for, to help get the Ghostwalk name out there, also to help raise some funding in order to be able to do the big project. But they can also go to ghostwalkproductions.com, and there they can submit to be part of the crew, as well as we have a little fundraiser for helping to finance the farm too. You can get your name in the credits for as little as $5 and have your name up on the screen and point it out close by. And of course, there's for donating a little more, there's other gifts and whatnot comes with it, and people can check that out too. And all the money that we're looking to raise is just to pay for all the real fancy stuff like gasoline and food and hotel rooms and. Everybody on the staff is a volunteer. We're all doing this out of the love and passion for it. And sure, when it's out there and everything, we're hoping to get ourselves noticed and be able to further our careers. But it's really great working together with all these people because nobody has such an ego that hinders us, in any way or anything. It's just everybody is just so passionate about this,
right?
And we're all doing this for nothing. But it would be nice to be able to pay, for the hotel rooms and the gas and the food. You got to feed the crew and the cast and a few wardrobe things and everything. And right now we're paying it out of our pockets.
Right. And I think that's also another hurdle in terms of when I was asking earlier about what's the easiest and what's the most difficult parts of making a movie is the cost. And you really try to keep it down to a low budget as much as possible without it looking like a low budget film, unless it was perfectly designed to look like a low budget film. That's different. But just the cost itself. And I think it's great that you mentioned, just to repeat to everybody, that's ghostwalkproductions.com and then ghostwalklive.com. There's two different places. There's also a Ghost Walk on Facebook, so make sure you join there and like that page. But just to repeat to everybody, there is a way for them to donate funds and help finance the movie and the efforts that you guys have going on for the fundraisers. And the fact that you have a volunteer staff is amazing as well, because a lot of people who get into these indie films realize, what all it takes in order to do that. And so having a volunteer staff and having great people you can work with is just amazing. So you said as little as $5 they can actually donate towards the fundraiser. Is there a max limit that you can't take because of tax reasons or anything else? So if anybody
not at all.
Okay, good.
Not at all.
Okay, good.
Whatever makes them feel good, that's all I have to say.
What's the fundraiser? Is it can you talk about the fundraiser?
Fundraiser going at Indiegogo /the farm. I'll have to double check on that link for you. But we have a crowdfunding thing going at Indiegogo. And also, if you go to either Ghost Walk Productions or Ghost Walk Live, you will see a place that you can click on to see what is available for gifts at various donation levels.
Well, it seems like you're a very busy guy. And the fact that you've been married for so long, that's an amazing treat in itself. And your wife is very supportive for you and all the work that you're doing. And it sounds like you guys are just moving right along, and we're going to see you up on the big screens and have the marquees and everything going. I'm really excited for the movies you're producing. The Farm that's coming out in October, The Muslin that's come along, all the other script work that you're working on, the volunteer staff that you have going, all the massive websites you have with ghostwalkproductions.com, Ghostwalk Live, the Facebook stuff. You're really out there getting your name recognized and getting people to help. This is exciting. Just for me to be able to talk to you, I'm honored to be able to talk to you about all the work that you're doing. This is really exciting stuff.
Thank you. I am blown away by what I've been able to accomplish in just 4.5 years. 4.5 years ago, I said, okay, I'm going to start this. And now, the way that I am involved with Ghost Walk is Rocky Carledge came to me and recruited me, which is mind-blowing to begin with. Somebody happened to notice. That's why I started my Facebook account, was in order to network within the film industry. And then next thing I know, Rocky sees the commercials that I had made. He liked my technique and my commitment and everything, and contacted me, and we talked. And he sounded like he had an amazingly interesting and fun project and everything. So that's how we ended up getting together.
Steve, I'd like to go ahead and thank you again for all the work that you're doing in the film industry and helping people get started, all the great tips and tricks that you gave to us tonight. I'd like to go ahead and remind everybody of the websites of films in order to be able to check out some of Steve's work. And it's ghostwalkproductions.com, ghostwalklive.com, thefarmfilm.com, carburetedfilms.com, 1001hobbies.info, xaxbinterceptor.tripod.com, purplestain66.tripod.com, and of course check them out on YouTube on 1001 Hobbies. Steve, with everything that you're doing, thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
It's supposed to be the most wonderful time of their lives. They're spending their honeymoon at a rustic farm, just the two of them. Alone, or so they thought. what finds them is not friendly or kind. There is more to the farm than what you bring with you. Something is already there.
Everybody, please welcome our musical guest tonight, Justin Estep.
Start whenever you're ready.
This will hit you hard and bruise you. Maybe leave you scarred, 'cause marks on the evidence of lessons not forgotten. And I pray God will grant to you some vision, help you find your way through this darkness, and give you something that's worth just being here for. It's clear that everybody here's unhappy, and everybody keeps pretending like they don't play the game, like they don't make mistakes, like they don't feel disconnected, like they've never been ashamed. And I know this can't be the way to do this. It's not the way that I'd want to live. In hypocrisy and always in denial. But it's clear that everybody here's unhappy, and everybody keeps pretending like they don't play the game, like they don't make mistakes, like they don't feel disconnected, like they've never been ashamed. Like they don't play the game.
And now, a word from our sponsors. The Ghost Tales Television Network, GTN. GTN is designed to give the paranormal TV and filmmaking community the opportunity to showcase their talents and creations. If you believe you have what it takes to create your very own TV show and or short film and you would like the opportunity to showcase your creations, you may contact us at ghosttales.tv@gmail.com or call 901-377-7166 for more details. Make sure you visit ghosttales.tv.com. GTN, America's Paranormal Superstation. Creatology is a comprehensive personal development course that will help you find your true power and your true beliefs. As a result, you will be able to realize the reality that you desire. The time has come to gain power and create the life that you are meant to live. Visit creatology.com today or call toll-free 877-248-8508 and get started in living life to the fullest. At Taylor Gifts, we do customized monogramming and embroidery. We can monogram anything from a simple one name on a bib for a baby to a customized logo on a company shirt. We can make gifts for your wedding entourage and gifts for your friends. Label your children's items for school and put names on jerseys for sports. If you have items of your own you want them monogrammed and embroidered, we can do that. Tailor Gifts are sewn with high-quality thread on a professional embroidery machine. So go to the website www.tailorgifts.net, call 251-391-4354, email sales@tailorgifts.net, visit us at ETSY, and Facebook us. We are ready for your orders.
Thank you for listening to the Friday edition of the Bradshaw Chronicles. I am your host, Bryan Lee Whatley. I look forward to seeing you next week.